Going to do a quick tech check. I know I'm jinxing myself, right?
You should just stop doing the
I
checks.
should just stop checking to see that everything's working because, hey, like like in so many books, uh, one I just finished, the main character, they always conveniently ask him to go and check something out, and then he touches the big red button, right? He never touched the big red
Yep.
button. But if you
Never
don't have
touch
any
it.
red buttons, hello, how are you? If you're watching us live, thanks for joining us. If you're watching this later, also thanks for joining us. Welcome to the first Geek on My Sleeve stream. For this launch party, we will have food, we will have great conversation. Um, we're just going to have a great time getting this started, building this community that we hope turns into an all inclusive, open minded, family friendly place to just geek out with people about great stories and some of our favorite novels. I would like to thank our sponsor for this stream, Cheer Up Foods. They have a cricket flour cookie, and I've heard the vegan chocolate chip cookie taste amazing. Um, Always get excited seeing products like these that offer alternative choices. Um, for our food being provided live on stream and cooking demonstration, we have the founder of Each Treats and Parsnips, Dr. Natasha Aurora, joining us. Um,
Hello. We're an
Hello.
ATP kitchen.
Yes, I'm excited. Um, but yeah, great food, great dialogue. Before we get the party started, Natasha, what do you have for us today?
Say that again.
Before we get started on the dialogue of the Children of Time, what food do you have for us today?
Oh, yes, yes. So we
Am
are
I all right on
doing,
sound?
yeah, we're doing two space travel worthy snacks if you want to use your imagination a little bit. So we have rosemary popcorn, which super savory. Already chopped up the rosemary, so it smells amazing over here. Little side benefit, if you read the book, you'll appreciate this. The popcorn has a tint of green to it, so green planet popcorn, maybe. And then we also have a savory snack mix that's a mix of everything good and delicious, some nice heat from some cayenne pepper, and I'll be showing you how to make both of these.
And yeah, it sounds like that would hold well on a space journey, right?
That's the idea. And whether you're going into space or going out into the woods or taking a weekend drive, you gotta have snacks. So hopefully you guys will enjoy
Absolutely.
these recipes.
I know whenever I travel with my son, you have to have snacks to get in between meals or planets in this stream's case. So
I can only imagine when they wake up from those suspension chambers how hungry they must be.
yeah, I wonder how that works too, because obviously they take care of all their needs. You would think that even muscle wise, they would have to be doing something um,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure their muscle mass is maintained and not just be like
Yep.
a complete vegetable. But yeah, I think you'd probably be pretty hungry um, waking
I
up
would be.
after
I'm always hungry.
right, right. I struggle getting in between meals, let alone a couple thousand years in
Yeah.
sleep, right?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'd also be scared to eat something with that long of a shelf life too, after waking
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Well, good thing is the snacks we're gonna do today, zero preservatives. More well, depending on what you buy to put in the snack mix, but the popcorn definitely. Um, all freshly made and delicious.
That sounds awesome. So,
Speaking of which, should we start on that cooking demo?
yeah, yeah. Give me an opportunity to get my notes together.
Yeah,
Um,
let me just switch my camera over, get it next to the stove, and I will be right back.
Sounds great. I've been looking forward to seeing this. You've been telling me about it as we were getting ready for the stream, and I don't know. After watching this, it should be no excuses, right? Make my own batch.
Yep, no excuses. Smells pretty good over here.
After the live stream, I'll make sure to go update the description below to include all the links and anything referenced in the discussion. All right, so I'm going to switch this on over. Are you ready for us, Natasha?
I I think so. Can
All
you
right.
see what you need to see? I think.
It looks good on my end. So,
Perfect. All
all
right,
right.
we're gonna start with the rosemary popcorn then. So I just have a little bit of oil in this pan already and some diced rosemary. So just gonna put the rosemary in, about half of it. We're gonna save the other half to sprinkle on top. So put this on a medium-low heat for about 10 minutes. And that'll infuse the rosemary into the oil. Also turns the oil a little bit green, and thus the popcorn being green. So while that's going, we're also going to start the savory spice mix. So what I have ready here is a nice blend of cumin, fennel, salt, curry powder, and cayenne pepper. I'm gonna throw that in a baking dish. Also already has a bit of oil in it. And then just stir this around until all of the oil has some spice in it so that it gets nicely infused. And then we're gonna throw this in the oven on low heat for about 10 minutes, again, just to infuse the oil with all of these wonderful flavors. And then we'll come back and throw in the popcorn kernels and the actual tasty part of the spice mix. So just tossing this in the oven. You can see, I hope, that it's all nicely spiced. The oil is nicely spiced, so just throwing this in the oven. And that's as simple as that for now.
Yeah, it looked pretty straightforward. That's something I kind of get anxious about trying new recipes is, you know, how complicated it is. But that,
Yeah, I try to make them as simple as possible. I know a lot of you don't have a ton of time to cook, but sometimes you still need food that's good and healthy for you. So, you know, time efficiency.
yeah, it's hard to get all those sometimes, sometimes I feel forced between a choice of healthy or quick. So whenever you get a recipe that could hit both, um, yeah,
Yep, that's the idea here at Each Treats and Parsnips is to have it be healthy and quick, and as an added bonus, be allergen friendly or compatible with whatever your diet is. So you'll notice if you go to the website and pull up these recipes, the links are in the description of this video. There's no garlic or onion, which are common allergens for a lot of people. The snack mix is low FODMAP friendly, as is the popcorn. They're both gluten free, easily adjustable for whatever you need, really, and whether it's space travel or gluten free or low FODMAP, you know, got you covered.
that's awesome. And you're always posting new recipes up all the time, keeping it
Yep,
fresh. That way you don't have to do the same ones.
all the
Anyway,
time. So never short of inspiration.
so while we're waiting on that, quick kind of overall intro. in regards to what we're aiming for with these live streams. If you follow on geekonmysleeve.com, I hope to get a calendar up there shortly where you can see what books are on the horizon, when the Geek Out sessions are, invite individuals such as Dr. Natasha Aurora and other people who just want to geek out about these books with us, and hope that you're able to join the discussion through chat. Uh, Bear with us as we work on the learning curve and responding to all that. But yeah, looking forward to geeking out with you guys. So, spoiler alert. Um, while we probably won't get into anything too detailed today in regards to the Geek Out on the Children of Time, again, one of my favorite sci-fi books. Um, there may be spoilers. If you're not okay with that, stop watching, come back later, or join us for part 2, give you details about that later, where we go a little bit more in depth. But spoilers ahead. Um, read a quick summary of The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Did I get that right, Natasha? Tchaikovsky?
I'm not an
Sound right?
expert, but I think it's close to what Google told us.
If you're out there, Adrian, I apologize if I butchered that. Made my best attempt. So try to share this here. If not, I'll just read it for you guys. Children of Time. This was probably my third, fourth time. No, not even that. Probably more than that going through this book. And every time I go through it, I take something different away from it. Um, the summary on the back: Race for Survival Among the Stars. Humanity's last survivors escaped Earth's ruins to find a new home, but when they find it, can their desperation overcome its dangers? Like, now that I've gone and listened to the book, like it's just such a tease. Um, who will inherit this new Earth? The last remnants of the human race left a dying Earth, desperation to find a new home among the stars. Following in the footsteps of their ancestors, they discover the greatest treasure of the past age, a world terraformed and prepared for human life. But all is not right in this new Eden. In the long years since the planet was abandoned, the work of its architects have borne disastrous fruit. The planet is not waiting for them, pristine and unoccupied. New masters have turned it from a refuge into mankind's worst nightmare. Now, two civilizations are on a collision course, both testing the boundaries and what they will do to survive as the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. Who are the true heirs of this new earth? Tongue twister. I hated popcorn in grade school, for the record. Popcorn where they call on you to read. Yeah, Natasha, now that I'm reading back through it, they say a whole lot in that summary without really saying a whole lot about the story, right?
Yeah, they do. There's some things I probably would have described differently now that I've finished the book. But it's definitely one take on what I'm sure some of the people aboard the ship thought about the situation. But I think by the end of the book, it's got a different feel to it.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. Um, so again, spoilers ahead. Try to keep them as minor as possible for this first
Trying.
stream. Trying
It's a
to.
good
If we
book.
slip up, you've been warned, right? Um, yeah, the true heirs. Oh, sorry. Um, so summary, and then I before we get too deep, I want to start with one of my favorite, or just a loaded quote from early on in the book. This is the future. This is where mankind takes its next great step. This is where we become gods, right? Um,
It's
yeah,
a heavy one.
it's a heavy one. And then just tying back into that, yeah, yeah,
Well, for me, it brings to mind how many times in history mankind has had that type of thought, whether it was exploring new land, looking up into the heavens, crossing an ocean,
yeah.
traveling to the moon, traveling to another planet, right? Like it's,
Just expanding on any boundaries, right, in history,
yeah,
whether that
yep,
be, um, yeah, it,
yeah, I
and
think.
that's one of the things that I really enjoy about sci-fi books is even though they may seem like they take so far um, into the future and whatnot, you still see so many similarities to the current age, to the previous age. Um, you know, talking about how we're destroying the earth. You know, here this book's about looking for planet B, right? And the struggles and challenges to that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, that's one thing I really liked about it is how it brought forth all of those common themes of humanity that I honestly haven't really thought about a lot since high school history class, but they're
hmm
still there and they're true of every era that you look through, whether it's the Industrial Revolution or World Wars, current day. These these are just themes that I think are inherent in human nature and it is part of the book goes through. They try to
yeah,
escape it, they plan to escape some of them and they didn't do a great job. They
no,
needed a little
and
help in the end.
it's kind of funny, yeah, like history doomed to repeat itself, right? And then you see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the similarities, and that's what I really enjoy about the classicist, right? Where he specializes on history and uh, ancient societies and cultures and just the similarities he saw just leaping thousands of years into the future in cryo sleep. Um, yeah,
Yeah. For me, the scariest part of the book, which if you've read it, this might seem a little weird, but the scariest part was when that classicist realized he was the last historian left and he was not young and there wasn't really anybody else to pass on all of his knowledge to. And here you have the last of the human race, or what you think is the last of the human race, and
right.
only one person knows everything that came before. They didn't pack history books and all kinds of things on this ship to go out into outer
Right,
space and travel to
right.
find a new home. They relied on the passing of information from person to person like it was way back before everything was
hmm
written down. Maybe some video
hmm
recordings and things it seems, but they didn't pack it all in some format that was easily referenced later.
It,
They did for critical things, but not the history.
right. Yeah, yeah. And not to mention all the challenges they just faced along the way that could have corrupted or destroyed what they did have. But again, to bring it back full circle, looking back at history, how many times um, did just because, it was written down on books where they got burned or lost, did we lose history? And you always talk about how it's doomed to repeat itself, but some people also use it as a template. But anyway, I'm going a bit down the rabbit hole here. Amazing book, very excited about it. Uh, I've gifted it several times to many different people. For those of you who know me, it's if there's yeah, books are the greatest things to give to other people, and glad to be here sharing it with you. Uh, the Children of Time was actually a book that I gifted to you, Natasha, and one of the many reasons why I was really looking forward to kind of talking to you about it and picking your brain was, one, you're an avid reader, right? And
Definitely.
it's just an amazing book. Um, but also just your academic background in biology, with a PhD from Harvard Medical School, or Harvard Medical in Biological and Biomedical Sciences, and just the eh, the book doesn't go super in depth, I don't think, about the nitty
No,
gritty
it doesn't.
details.
It
Um,
does not.
which I tend to get frustrated sometimes when I'm doing sci-fi books, because it's, I enjoy fantasy, I enjoy sci-fi, but sci-fi kind of has to have its basis in science, right, and be believable. And just, yeah, I would really interested to pick your brain about what you think in regards to the nanovirus. Um, but are we
Yes, yes, and yes. So
okay? Sorry,
I
I
would
like
love
to
to share my
ramble.
thoughts. That's okay. Unfortunately, the thing about live streams and me being the only one in this kitchen is you can't smell how good all this smells right now, and it's telling me it's time to throw in the popcorn and the components of the snack mix. So, if you don't mind, we'll throw that in real quick, and then I can answer your question.
Yeah, like I said, I
Sounds
like to geek out and ramble, but please tell us about those
all right.
savory smells.
Yeah, it's a little hard to ignore. So definitely check out the recipes because your kitchen is going to smell amazing. So just pulled out the spice mix or spice infused oil from the oven, and it's pretty simple. What we have is a blend of different crunchy things. We've got some Crispix, puffed corn cereal, potato chips, pea crisps, sweet potato tortilla chips, really anything you want that's crunchy. But I personally like this mix. It's got a little bit of everything, so you never feel like two bites are the same, which is one of my favorite things about a good snack mix. So I'm just going to stir and stir until I feel like things are reasonably well coated, and then throw it back in the oven. So it bakes at a low temperature for about 45 minutes, and you need to stir it every 15 minutes. And so you'll have opportunities to stir and get some more of that oil on different pieces of all these crunchy, delicious cereals and things. I'm just stirring. Nice thing is the oil has a little bit of a yellowish tint now, so you can kind of tell when things have gotten some of the coating. So I feel like this is pretty good. So I'm just going to make sure it's evenly spread out and toss that back in the oven. In the meanwhile, I'm going to turn the heat up on the rosemary oil, get it ready for the popcorn. So, putting the snack mix back in the oven for about 15 minutes. And then we won't have to interrupt the stream, but I'll take care of that. So the oil is hot with the rosemary. I've pre-measured out popcorn kernels, a little bit of salt. Just gonna toss that in there. Put the lid on. Time to make popcorn. Give it a little shake. I don't know how many of you make popcorn on the stove. I know there's an old time popcorn maker, popcorn popper, or you can do it over the campfire. You can buy a bag and do it in the microwave, but then you can't get the nice rosemary flavor. It's personally one of my favorites. Easy to make, healthy.
Yeah, there's a lot more preservatives and whatnot in that the microwave stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is literally just olive oil, salt, rosemary, and popcorn kernels. So, if you're so inclined, buy everything organic and you have real ingredients, as real as you can get in there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a little bit of a sizzle and we're about to have the popcorn popping. For those of you who don't regularly make popcorn on the stove, it's important to keep shaking the pan every once in a while so that the kernels don't stick, but also so they don't burn because the heat is up pretty high. So you just need to give it a little shake every couple seconds. Waiting for this to start popping. I guess I was too enthusiastic with how good it smelled. Should have waited another second with the oil.
I know that I've been really trying to sell you on the audiobook format, but this would be a perfect time to be listening to one of your favorite books, working on
This is true.
a recipe in the kitchen. Just whip out your phone, turn on Audible, hit play, get through a couple more chapters.
Yep. All right, we have some popping. I don't know if you guys can see the little popcorns. There we go. Hopefully you can see a couple, but they're starting to go. Yeah, man, it smells really good in here. That's all I can say. I wish technology was able to put smells through YouTube.
You know what? If somebody hasn't already claimed it, I if you can come up and find a way to execute this idea, just keep the rights to it because I rather be able to smell through technology.
Yeah. So when the kernels are almost done, you don't hear too much popping, then it's done. Kind of like same in the microwave. So just turning it off. And then here's the only tricky part about popcorn is getting the lid off soon enough, but not too soon enough because you don't want popcorn kernels popping in your face, but you also don't want the popcorn to get soggy from the lid. So I'm going to take it straight off. Be careful not to turn it. Otherwise, some of that condensation will end up on your popcorn and then it'll be soggy. So yeah, just gonna put it in this serving bowl. And I'll show you guys what the finished snack mix looks like in just a second.
So yeah, talking about which way you turn the lid. I did that once in a larger kitchen I worked at. Yeah, just once, a whole bunch of steam rushing over your hand as you tilt that lid. You will not do it again. No fun.
Yeah, there's some hazards of the kitchen, that's for sure.
Right? So when you are listening to your audiobooks and working in the kitchen, still pay attention to what you're doing.
Exactly. Safety first.
Always, always, always. So
Alright, just getting set up here to show you guys what these snacks look like. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. Okay, so we got here the finished popcorn. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of fresh rosemary finely diced on top, and we're good to go. So that's the popcorn. And then the snack mix, finished product, voila, let's pretend 45 minutes has passed, and this is what it would look like. So we got the pea crisps, the potato chips, the sweet potato tortilla chips, the puffed corn cereal, and of course the Crispix. Crispix are one of my favorites. So yeah, but you could use any combination of cereals or snack things, throw in some pretzels or Chex Mix or something, different Chex, and enjoy.
I almost always have to get my little crunch fix, salty fix throughout the day. I know you said there's not a whole lot preservative wise, but if you throw it in a bag, like you do a batch of it on the weekend, does it hold pretty well throughout the week?
Yeah, the popcorn holds, I would say, several days. It's not the same like fresh crispiness, but
Right.
definitely keeps and tastes good. The rosemary flavor is still there. And then the snack mix, I can't really say because it never sticks around long enough.
Hey, that says something right there, right? It's always gone
Yeah, it
before it goes bad.
yes, without a doubt. Speaking of which, I'm gonna snack on this snack mix because it just smells too good.
All right. You snack,
So,
I'll caffeinate, and then yeah, no, it like I was rambling along. Uh, one of the things I really like about sci-fi is like the believability behind what's going
mhm.
on. There was a popular TV show. I can't remember the title, but it's like how Star Trek basically impacted technology, right? Like the flip phone, or the tablet, or so many other different examples that they have. When reading sci-fi books, it's kind of that check for me. It's like, okay, this should be more fantasy because it's just pulled out of nowhere, no foundation in science. Yet I couldn't help but looking after reading this book, not looking at spiders the same way anymore, right? Just because
Yeah.
this nanovirus had such a major impact on their development. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know, scientist perspective, I guess.
Yeah. So viruses can do a lot of things in terms of the way that we engineer them in labs, but there's a lot that was a big leap in the book. So some of the I don't want to go too in depth because we can save that for part two on Saturday. But some of it about having it affect certain species definitely doable within some reasons, and it makes perfect sense that the scientists in this book may not have considered spiders. That happens all the time. Um, there are some things about how smart the nanovirus was in terms of its evolution that are feasible. Not easy to do by any means, but feasible. And then there are some parts that it just doesn't happen that way. There might be a way to do it, but it's not something that I would anticipate us figuring out for some
It,
time.
in my opinion, it seems to happen fairly often with sci-fi books. Like, not everything will really line up, but you want at least enough of it to line up to where there's like a believability, right? That maybe our understanding of science at this point isn't quite there, but if it's just too far out there, then it's like, go put this in the fantasy section and just call it a magic system versus
Yeah,
science.
as a scientist, there were definitely a couple moments where I was like, yeah, that's not a thing. That probably will never be a thing. Um, Trying to think of a specific example without doing any detailed spoilers.
Well, there's also, you got to keep the main story arc going, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
all books will kind of just, you might have to gloss over a little bit of detail just to make the overarching story complete. Um, but yeah, and
yeah. I
then
think one of the parts that was both on both sides of the fantasy and science part was the nanovirus allowing infected organisms, whether it be spiders or monkeys or rats or whatever, to recognize other infected organisms. And so
yeah, it
there
almost made
might
it sound like a conscious, like that was the um yeah, so self-aware was said virus.
yeah,
Anyway, continue.
yeah, which that's not a thing that I would envision we would get to any point soon. I can't wrap my head around exactly from a scientific perspective how you would go about doing that. But what I can envision happening is if the virus were to interact with the organism in such a way that it alters sort of brain chemistry or neurons in a way that it allows something else to be perceived.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
And a lot of it was also um, the traits that got carried on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a very in-depth scientific background, but it, there were so many times where I lost scale of how the story progressed, especially since they like to use a lot of the same names, so you feel like you're reading about
Yeah.
the same character, but then all of a sudden it's just several generations later in evolution. Um,
Yep. And you don't know how many generations.
yeah, and that's the other thing about just evolution and science too. Seems like every so often you hear about it on the news where they in this controlled experiment, which I think you referenced earlier about not anticipating the effect on spiders. But in a controlled experiment, virus or whatever acted one way, and then all of a sudden it just evolved or mutated or got out of said controlled environment. And to think about what could happen over thousands of years. Um, but yeah, sorry, going down the rabbit hole. Uh, it was interesting. And then, gosh,
Well,
don't want to
that's
get into
one thing in the
spoilers.
book. That's one thing in the book too. It doesn't really have too much of a timeline. Like it's all very vague and blurry.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm not an avid sci-fi reader like you are, but I'm used to them like having more emphasis on the passage of time, that it
Right,
survived this much or this distance or something. It's like a notable part of the book to say that this much
right,
time has passed. But this book, it just in these vague generations that come and go, or in and out of the suspension chambers, and
right, right.
you don't. It's hard to grasp just how long it's been.
Well, and that's something you see from the human perspective too. And again, when we
Mhm.
follow our favorite classicist, just how it all blurs together. And there's even those moments, kind of like when you wake up just from sleeping at night, that moment in between where what is real, what is not real. You're half asleep, half awake, and then to have that same experience, the bulk of the cargo, it was one trip, right? But to
Yeah.
then have that be broken up over thousands of years, and um, they talk about how when you sleep, that's when you process information, and to like go in and out over several thousand years. Uh, how disjointed or disconnected would you feel from
Hmm.
the regular cargo, let alone how long ago it was for you on Earth when you set off? Um,
Yeah, and that's one of the things that was mentioned a couple times from the classicist perspective of um, being woken up so many times, and he would encounter somebody that had been awake for, I don't know, let's say a year, and he literally just woke up. And he doesn't know how long he's been asleep, what's happened in that period of time, what's happened in the last year that this person knows intimately,
right,
and he's very disoriented. But then he also, on the other hand, interacts with people who were recently woken up and has all this backstory. And he's like, wait, but they don't know what's happened to the ship. They don't
right,
know what's happened to the systems. They don't know the history of the change of leadership and all these other things.
right.
So I can only imagine how confusing it would be to live on that ship or to be woken up at any point in time.
Yeah, yeah. And then kind of tie that all in together with the quote as well. This is the future. This is where mankind takes its next great step. This is where we become gods. Kern, she talk about her passage of time, right?
Yes. Oh my.
And evolution of perspective of time, and just
Mhm.
everything in general. Uh, Chief scientist, I don't have the notes in front of me of what her official title was in the beginning. Um, but yeah, thousands of
Well, she
years.
she set out to create this world and just uh, very interesting turn of events. I really don't want to give it away, but
I was about to say, I'm trying to figure out how to progress with too many spoilers because we do hope those of you who watch this after the live stream takes the opportunity to pick up The Children of Time and join us for a more in-depth conversation if you decided to move past the spoiler warning. But
I do want to say for anyone who hasn't read it, just to see what happens to this one character named Kern. You meet her in the very beginning, and it's one of these, you think she's doing good, but maybe she's not. Maybe she's crazy. No, she's probably crazy, but you kind of hope she's okay. And then you just don't worry about her. And then by the end, you kind of pity her. And then you're
yeah,
like, oh, it all turned out the way it was supposed to. Or at
yeah,
least that's how
it's
I felt.
well, that's one of the beauties I think of this book is you probably have more than this, but you have at least three different perspectives, right? From
Mm-hmm.
three different timelines, from three different types of entities or whatever, if you will.
Yeah.
And to flip through those different perspectives and to flip through the different ways that they perceive the world around them and process information. Um, it really makes you think about, at least it did for me, how I view the world, right? And just the differences between language between spiders and humans. Um, it's not as severe, but I know in my experience, it's different with different cultures and different walks of life, let alone to interact with a quote unquote alien species. Um, and then to just shift through those different perspectives, there's points where you find yourself rooting for one, hating the other, and then it switches later on. Kind of like with Kern. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I had that with the spiders too at first when the spiders were introduced at the very beginning, and there were two different species of spiders, and it was like, oh, rooting for one, and then it's like, oh,
yeah,
wait a minute,
right,
maybe I need to root for a specific spider. But even that changed over the course of all their generations. There was a little spider at the beginning that I thought was just fluff and a character we wouldn't really see again, and then come to the end, it's the hero. And I did not expect that when I started the book.
right. It
And
all right, go ahead.
I was just surprised at how a character that seems so insignificant at the beginning could contribute to major themes in like the second half of the book or the last third or something like that. But then there were characters at the beginning, like Kern, who you think are essential and maybe the center point around which the whole story is going to revolve. They have a very different path in the book and
Yeah,
how they interact with the different characters. So it's cleverly written.
it's cleverly written, and I'm really curious to see where it goes with book two. If people haven't
Yes.
heard the title "Children of Ruin," um, I'm going to see if I can share this real quick. And I know everybody just loves my reading voice, but you guys can go through that. Um, but yeah, kind of along that same thought process where they we had three different perspectives, right? But it also teased about the sea life, right? There was a couple
Yes.
points where it was brought up, and it kind of makes you wonder what else on this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the different, you know, foreshadowing or promises made in this first book. Um, Like it definitely wrapped up a lot of uh, story arcs, if you will, um, in that book, but it teases us about the sea life, and you hear about it from the spiders' perspectives and interacting with them, and the ants, right, where it's maybe
Mhm.
not completely on the same level of consciousness or awareness, but uh, I'm really hoping that in the second book we get to see some of that.
Yeah,
Let
maybe there'll be a
alone,
revolution of the ants, following some of the themes
yeah,
of humanity that seem to carry through with the spiders. Maybe it'll carry through to the ants next.
right. It
You never know.
you never know. There was plenty of twists and turns. Granted, this was my several time reading or read it several times by now. But yeah,
Yeah, I do want to comment on the title since you mentioned that the next one you said is Children of Ruin.
right.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this to you earlier. When I first picked up the book, I didn't think anything of the title. I usually don't unless it's a very pointed title. And this one I was like, okay, whatever. So I read. It's a 600-page book for those of you who are going for the hard copy.
That's not
And
that
I'm
much.
no, it's very fast read, but 600 pages. I'm maybe like 400 some pages into this book, and it hits me. I'm like, Children of Time.
Yes,
I
I
understand. I
I
understand where this came from.
it
So with
probably
that
took me a little bit longer, getting clubbed over the head with it, but then definitely by the end of the book, you're like, wow. Now when I
yes,
look at that title, so yeah, I think
yeah.
I understand
But
where you're
Children
going
of
with this.
Ruin,
Yeah,
what does this mean? So for those of you who haven't read it, all this alone might, I don't know, if I had known what I know now about the title and kind of the points it is trying to make, that
yeah.
alone would have made me pick up the book without Carl's recommendation and sending it to me. So,
Yeah, yeah.
still a
Recommendations,
recommendation, of course.
putting it nicely. I get on plenty of my friends' nerves when I not only bring up a book title, but multiple times. And it's always
Well, when it
nice when it's well received.
when it ends up at your doorstep, send it to me. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, yeah. Children of Ruin, it's coming out May 16th,
Ooh,
2019.
all right.
Right around the corner. If you haven't read Children of Time yet, pick it up. You have plenty of time to finish it before um, the follow-up stream this Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Uh,
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Thank you. No, 10 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. I got that right, right?
Yes.
This Saturday. Okay. Um, but yeah, if you don't have time to finish the Children of Time before then, hopefully you can get through it and watch for us to make an announcement. I almost guarantee you right now we'll do a Geek Out session of the Children of Ruin. Hope that you can join us in that Geek Out session. Um,
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
yeah,
Even if it's another 600 pages, sign me up.
Audible. I'm just saying.
I
break
Yep.
break it down. How many ETP recipes to finish a book? Maybe we'll come up with
Yeah.
a
I
conversion
will let
for
you know how that math works out next time.
it. But yeah, it's I used to have a hard rule where I wouldn't start a series before it was nearly over, and then once you just consistently consume so many books a year on a regular basis, you kind of have to break that rule. But it's only been a couple years waiting for the Children of Ruin. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Adrian Tchaikovsky has some other titles out there. Um, might look into. But yeah, if you have read it, uh, put your thoughts about the meaning behind the title Children of Time in the comments below. Any guesses to the Children of Ruin? I have a couple thoughts about different ways it could go. Um, but yeah, quick check here. All lights still green. I haven't hit the red button. We're doing good. Um, yeah. What else do you think of the book, Tasha?
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
It was really good. I should have read it sooner. That is something that is without a doubt true. But I'm very glad that you sent it to me so that I could
the
enjoy
the
it.
real test is, would you reread it?
I don't reread many books, but
Um,
I will eagerly pick up the next one.
there you go. There you go.
So
I
I'm already
re-listened
hooked, and the book's not out yet.
to a lot of books. There's so many things I really want to get into, but I don't want to do too many spoilers.
Yeah,
Um,
well, we can save those for Saturday.
that's right.
Yep.
Um, yeah. If you have anything specific you guys want us to talk about in the upcoming stream, again, feel free to show the love in the comments. Uh, there's just so many beautiful things about this book, so many amazing quotes. Make sure to follow us on social media, um, to stay tuned for other updates on future Geek Out streams. Um, let's see here. How are the snacks?
Good. I'm trying really hard not to eat all of them so that I can talk to you. They
I'm
smell
trying to
really
watch
good.
for when you do snack on it. That way I can time a really well placed question. Because
Yeah.
that always
Let
seems
me
to be
help
my
you out.
luck. um, but yeah, thank you, Tasha, for joining me on the launch party, making
Happy
some
to.
great, tasty snacks. Gonna,
Congratulations on the launch. Looking forward to more detailed
yay!
listening.
Um, again, check out the description for all the links. I'll throw that in after the live stream. Um, special thanks to our sponsor, Cheer Up Foods. Again, link in the description. Make sure to show them some love and check them out. Children of Time, if you haven't read it, amazing book. Audible, only 16 and a half hours, which if you're an epic fantasy or a hardcore sci-fi fan, it's not that long. Quick read. Yeah, definitely won't look at spiders the same way ever again.
Me
I,
neither.
a couple of those guys hanging out in the corners, yeah, makes you
Yep.
wonder.
It is.
I've
Summer
been
is coming.
tempted to practice my web vibrations communication. There needs to
Oh,
be an appendix, um,
a
but
how-to guide.
the how-to guide, right?
Yes, I like it.
Uh, but yeah, next stream, part two, Children of Time, this Saturday, April 20th at 10 a.m. Eastern. Hope to see you guys there. If you're interested in supporting this channel, please share it with another geek in your life. And looking forward to geeking out with you here soon. Thanks, Natasha.
See ya.